I was standing in my kitchen, packing the last of my coffee mugs into a cardboard box, when my phone rang. Mom's voice came through bright and cheerful, the kind of tone that always preceded something I wouldn't like. She told me she and Dad had sold their house. $400,000, all of it going to my younger sister Emily for her new bakery downtown. Then came the real punch. They were moving in with me next weekend. Temporarily, she said. My 3-bedroom house had plenty of room, didn't it? What Mom didn't know was that I had signed a lease on a studio apartment yesterday. The movers were coming tomorrow morning. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I learned early that I was the invisible daughter. My sister Emily, 4 years younger, was the star of our family. She was creative, artistic, full of dreams that needed protecting and funding. I was practical, responsible, boring. Those were the unspoken labels that defined our childhood. When I graduated high school, I knew college wouldn't be handed to me the way it was for Emily. Our parents made that clear without ever saying it directly. So I worked 2 jobs through my 4 years at Oregon State University. I waited tables at a diner on weeknights and stocked shelves at a grocery store on weekends. I applied for every scholarship I could find and took out modest student loans that I paid off within 3 years of graduating. Meanwhile, Emily attended a private art school in Seattle, fully funded by our parents. Tuition, room and board, art supplies, spending money, everything. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was building character, learning independence, becoming strong, and I did become strong. Maybe too strong because strength became my role, the dependable one, the one who never needed help. After college, I got a job as a software developer at a tech company in Portland. I saved aggressively, lived in a small apartment with 2 roommates, and 5 years ago, at age 27, I bought my house. A modest, 3-bedroom ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood. I paid the down payment myself, $25,000 I had saved penny by penny. My parents didn't contribute a cent. They were too busy funding Emily's first business venture at the time, a handmade jewelry line that folded within 8 months. That jewelry line was followed by a photography studio that lasted a year, then an event planning service that crashed after 6 months. Each venture cost our parents somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000. I watched it happen from the sidelines, never commenting, never judging out loud. But I kept score in my head. I couldn't help it. My house became the family gathering place by default. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every Easter, every birthday. I hosted them all. I cooked the turkey, baked the pies, decorated the dining room, bought the gifts. Emily would show up with a bottle of wine she'd grabbed at the last minute, if that. Our parents would bring a side dish and their expectations. I footed most of the bills and cleaned up alone after everyone left. I never said no. I never complained. I wanted to be loved, and I thought this was how I earned it. 2 months ago, Emily announced her newest dream, a bakery. Not just any bakery, but an upscale, Instagram-worthy boutique bakery in one of Portland's trendiest neighborhoods. She had a vision: exposed brick walls, marble countertops, gold fixtures, a signature line of French pastries. She called it Sweet Emily's. The rent alone was $4,000 a month. She needed commercial equipment, professional staff, permits, marketing, inventory. She estimated she needed $500,000 to do it right. Our parents didn't have that much, but they had their house, a 3-bedroom home in the suburbs they'd owned for 30 years, paid off, worth about $450,000. They sold it in 3 weeks. They never asked me what I thought. They never mentioned their plan until it was done. When Mom called to tell me, her voice bubbled with excitement. They'd given Emily $400,000. The rest would cover closing costs and moving expenses. They were so proud. Emily was finally going to make it big. I asked where they planned to live. Mom laughed like it was a silly question. With me, of course. Temporarily, just until they figured things out. I was sitting at my kitchen table when she said it, staring at a coffee stain on the wood. Something inside me cracked, not dramatically, not with anger or tears, just a quiet, definitive crack, like ice on a frozen lake finally giving way. I'd been in therapy for 8 months by then. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Laura Chen. No, wait, doctor. Laura Briggs, had been helping me unpack years of feeling invisible, of being the backup plan, the safety net. The one who gave and gave and gave without ever receiving. Shed used a word I initially resisted. Enmeshment. My identity was tangled up in being useful to my family. I didn't know who I was outside of that role. 3 months earlier, I'd made a decision. I was going to set boundaries. Real ones. I started small. I told my parents I couldn't host Thanksgiving that year. Mom cried. Dad called me selfish. Emily sent a passive-aggressive text about how I was ruining family traditions. I held firm, and Thanksgiving happened at a restaurant instead. It was stiff and awkward, but I survived. That small victory gave me courage for a bigger step. I decided to rent out my house and move into a studio apartment. My house had equity, and corporate tenants were willing to pay premium rent for a fully furnished place in a good school district. I could cover my mortgage, build savings, and create physical distance from my family's constant demands. The studio apartment I found was 400 square feet in a new building downtown. Tiny, perfect, a reset button. I signed the lease 4 weeks ago. The corporate tenants, a family relocating from California, signed their 6-month contract 2 weeks ago. It'd been packing slowly, telling no one. I planned to move out and inform my family afterward, once it was done and irreversible. But Mom's phone call moved up my timeline. She told me they were moving in next weekend. That gave me 6 days. I didn't argue with her on the phone. I stayed calm. I said we'd talk when they arrived. She took that as agreement. After we hung up, I sat in silence for 10 minutes. Then I called my best friend Jordan. She's a nurse at the same hospital where she's worked for 8 years, steady and unshakable. She's also the only person who knew about my moving plan. Jordan answered on the second ring. I told her what happened. She didn't hesitate. She said, "I'll be there tomorrow morning with my truck. We're getting you out." That night, I barely slept. Guilt gnawed at me. What kind of daughter abandons her parents when they need help? But another voice, quieter but stronger, asked a different question. What kind of parents expect their daughter to sacrifice everything without even asking first? The next morning, Jordan arrived at 7. We loaded boxes into her pickup truck and my sedan. Furniture stayed because the house was rented furnished. Clothes, books, kitchenware, personal items, everything that made the house mine. By noon, my bedroom was empty. By 3, the studio apartment was chaotically full. The studio was on the 8th floor, with a large window overlooking the city. One room containing a kitchen nook, a sleeping area, and a small living space. The bathroom was barely big enough to turn around in. It was perfect. Before I left the house for the last time, I wrote a note on a piece of my professional stationery and left it on the kitchen counter. Mom and Dad, I've moved out. My house is rented to a family for the next 6 months. I cannot house you. My new address and number are below. We need to talk about boundaries. Love, Francine. I placed my spare house key beside the note. The corporate tenants had their own key and were moving in Sunday afternoon. Jordan and I grabbed pizza that night. She raised her glass of soda. To Francine, who finally chose herself, I clinked my glass against hers, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt terrified. Sunday morning, I unpacked boxes in my studio, trying to make it feel like home. Everything fit, barely. My bed took up most of the space. My small desk faced the window. I hung 2 framed pictures, arranged books on a narrow shelf, and set up my coffee maker on the tiny kitchen counter. Around noon, my phone started ringing. First, Mom. Then Dad. Then Emily. I let them all go to voicemail. I wasn't ready. The voicemails were frantic. Mom was crying, her words tumbling over each other. Dad's voice was cold and furious. Emily's message was short and venomous. Then the texts started. Dozens of them. Mom, Francine, where are you? There are people in your house. What's happening? Dad, call us immediately. This is unacceptable. Emily. Wow. Just wow. You really did this. I turned my phone face down and tried to breathe. An hour later, Mom called again. This time, I answered. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. They'd arrived at my house with a small moving truck containing their remaining belongings. 2 suitcases of clothes each, some boxes of personal items, a few pieces of small furniture they couldn't bear to part with. They'd sold or donated everything else because, as Mom said through her tears, "You told us you had room. You said wed talk. We thought that meant yes." I closed my eyes. "I never said yes, Mom. You didn't say no. I said wed talk." "That's not a yes." Dad grabbed the phone. His voice was ice. "You did this on purpose. You planned this to humiliate us." "I planned this to save myself," I said quietly. "You left us homeless, Francine. Your own parents. We have nowhere to go. You sold your house without consulting me. You gave away $400,000 without considering what you'd do if things didn't work out. Those were your choices." "Family helps family," Dad said. "Apparently you don't understand that." Emily's voice came through in the background, shrill and angry. Dad handed her the phone. "I always knew you were jealous of me," Emily said. "This is punishment, isn't it? Because Mom and Dad are finally helping me succeed, you can't stand it." "This has nothing to do with you, Emily. Everything is always about you, though, isn't it?" Poor Francine, the martyr. "Well, congratulations. You just made Mom and Dad homeless. I hope you're happy." She hung up. I sat on my bed, phone in my lap, shaking. Jordan called an hour later. I told her everything. She was silent for a long moment, then said, "You know they're going to come after you hard, right? This is just the beginning." "I know," I said. "Are you okay?" I looked around my tiny studio apartment. 400 square feet of space that was entirely mine. No expectations, no obligations, just me. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." The texts continued throughout Sunday evening. Mom begged. Dad accused. Emily insulted. I responded to none of them. Instead, I made chamomile tea, sat by my window, and watched the city lights flicker on as the sun set. Monday morning, I went to work like normal. My colleagues noticed nothing different. I was good at that, at keeping my struggles invisible. I'd had years of practice. At lunch, my phone rang. Mom again. This time, I answered. "Will you at least meet with us?" she asked. Her voice was raw, exhausted. "Please, Francine. We need to talk face to face." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to refuse, to hold my boundary with walls of steel, but another part, the part that had been trained since childhood to accommodate and soothe, couldn't ignore the pain in her voice. "Okay," I said. "When and where? Today? This afternoon? There's a coffee shop near your old house, Brewster's. Can you meet us there at 4? I agreed. The rest of my workday crawled by. I couldn't focus. I rehearsed what I'd say, imagined their responses, prepared my defenses. At 3:45, I drove to Brewster's. It was a cozy place I'd been to dozens of times, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. I arrived early and ordered a black coffee I didn't drink. My parents walked in at 4 exactly. Emily was with them. Of course she was. Mom looked like Shed, aged 10 years. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair uncombed. Dad's face was stone, jaw set, shoulders rigid. Emily wore an expression I'd seen 1,000 times, smug superiority mixed with barely concealed anger. We sat at a corner table. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Mom broke the silence. "How could you do this to us, Francine? I'd prepared for this." I kept my voice steady. "I didn't do anything to you. I made a choice for myself. You made us homeless," Dad said flatly. "You made yourselves homeless when you sold your house without a backup plan." "You were the backup plan?" Emily snapped. "That's what family does. We support each other." I turned to her. "When have you ever supported me, Emily?" She blinked, caught off guard. "What? Name one time you've supported me. One time you've helped me with anything." That's not fair. You never needed help. You always had everything together. I worked 2 jobs through college while Mom and Dad paid for your private art school. I bought my house alone while they funded your jewelry business, your photography studio, your event planning service. I hosted every family gathering for 5 years and you never once offered to help clean up. But I never needed help, right? Emily's face flushed. That's different. I'm an artist. I have dreams. And I don't. You have a boring office job, you're fine. The words hit me like a slap. Not because they were new, but because they confirmed what I'd always suspected they thought of me. Mom reached across the table. Honey, we know we've made mistakes, but we're desperate. We spent 2 nights in a motel. It's expensive. We're burning through our savings. We need your help. I can help you, I said. I can help you look for an affordable apartment, connect you with resources, create a budget. But I cannot house you. Why not? Dad demanded. Your house is sitting there, my house is rented. I have a legal contract. Break it. No. His fist hit the table, making the coffee cups rattle. You're being selfish and cruel, Francine. This isn't who we raised you to be. Something inside me snapped. Not into anger, but into clarity. You raised me to be invisible, I said quietly. You raised me to give everything and ask for nothing. You raised me to believe my worth came from being useful. Well, I'm done. I pulled out my phone and opened the spreadsheet I'd been keeping for 3 years. I'd started it at Dr. Briggs' suggestion, not to weaponize it, but to help me see the reality of my situation clearly. I turned the phone toward them. This is every holiday I hosted, every meal I cooked, every gift I bought, every expense I covered when you visited. 3 years of data. The total is $32,473. Mom stared at the screen, her mouth slightly open. That doesn't include the emotional labor. The planning, the cleaning, the coordinating. The expectation that I'd always say yes. I swiped to another document. This is the lease contract for my house, signed 4 weeks ago, before your phone call. This wasn't revenge. This was me finally putting myself first. Dad shook his head. You've been planning this for weeks? You let us sell our house knowing you wouldn't help us. You never asked if I would help. You informed me I would. There's a difference. Mom was crying again, quietly this time. We didn't know you felt this way. You never asked. I pulled up one more document. A receipt for therapy sessions. 8 months of appointments. I've been in therapy since March. I've been dealing with the trauma of being the invisible child, the backup plan, the one who gives and gives until there's nothing left. My therapist helped me see I was enabling you, letting you use me because I was afraid that if I stopped being useful, it'd stop being loved. The table fell silent. Emily looked away. Mom covered her mouth with her hand. Dad's jaw tightened. I said, but I won't let you use me anymore. I need boundaries. I need to be seen as a person, not a resource. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. We do love you, Francine. We do. Then prove it by respecting my decision. Emily stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic. Come on, Mom, Dad, let's go. But Mom didn't move. She stared at the table, tears streaming down her face. Dad stood slowly. He looked at me with something I couldn't quite read. Anger? Shame? Maybe both. Let's go, he said to Mom. She stood, but before she left, she looked at me. I'm sorry, she whispered. Then they were gone. I sat alone at the table, my untouched coffee cold in front of me. My hands were shaking, but my heart felt strangely light. I'd done it. I'd spoken my truth. And I hadn't crumbled. The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet. My family went radio silent. And I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I threw myself into work. Into my new routine. I jogged every morning before work, something I'd never had time for when I was constantly managing family obligations. I cooked simple meals in my tiny kitchen. I read books I'd been meaning to read for years. Jordan came over one evening with Thai food. We sat on my bed because there was nowhere else to sit and ate pad Thai straight from the containers. How are you holding up? She asked. Honestly, I feel lighter. Guilty, but lighter. The guilt will fade, she said. You did the right thing. Did I, though? They're my parents. Emily's my sister. And you're a person who deserves respect. Those things can coexist. I wanted to believe her. 10 days after the coffee shop confrontation, I got a call from an unexpected source. Aunt Helen, my dad's older sister. She lived 3 hours south in Eugene and we'd always gotten along well, though we didn't see each other often. Francine, honey. I hope I'm not overstepping, she began. But I heard some version of what happened from your mother. And I wanted to hear your side. I told her everything. The years of being overlooked, the financial disparity, the expectation that I'd house them indefinitely without being asked. Helen listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a long pause. Your father did the same thing to me 30 years ago, she finally said. He was the golden child in our family. I was expected to sacrifice for him. To lend him money I never got back. To babysit his kids for free, while working full-time. I had to cut contact for 5 years to get my life back. Our parents thought I was heartless. But it was the only way I could survive. I didn't know that, I said. Your father probably doesn't even remember it that way. That's how these patterns work. The person being used is always more aware of it than the person doing the using. She paused. I'm proud of you, Francine. What you did took courage. Those words brought tears to my eyes. Someone in my family understood. I offered to let your parents stay with me temporarily, Helen continued. But they refused. Said my house was too small and too far from Emily's bakery. Of course they did. They're staying at an extended stay motel on 82nd Avenue. It's costing them about $80 a night. They can't sustain that for long. What do they expect me to do about it? I don't know. But I wanted to warn you about something else. Her voice grew serious. I drove up to Portland yesterday to see Emily's bakery for myself. And it's beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Marble counters, fancy espresso machine, gorgeous displays, but Francine, it was almost empty. I was there for an hour on a Wednesday afternoon and maybe 5 customers came in. I talked to the owner of the bookstore next door. He said Emily's been open for 2 weeks and she's struggling. No marketing, no customer base, expensive products in a neighborhood that's already saturated with bakeries. My stomach sank. How much trouble is she in? I don't know exactly, but enough that the neighboring business owners are already whispering. She hired 3 staff members but hasn't trained them properly. She spent a fortune on aesthetics but didn't budget for the practical stuff like inventory management or business licenses. Did you tell my parents? I tried. Your mother listened, but your father shut me down. Said I was being negative, that Emily just needs time to find her footing. Time and more money, I said quietly. Exactly. And when the bakery fails, Francine, they're going to come back to you. Be ready. After we hung up, I sat by my window and watched the rain start to fall. I felt no satisfaction in the possibility of Emily's failure. Just a deep, heavy sadness. This was all so predictable, and yet no one had wanted to see it coming. 3 weeks passed. I got a promotion at work. A small one, but meaningful. My manager praised my recent focus and productivity. I'd been arriving early, staying late, pouring my energy into projects. It felt good to be recognized for my skills, not my willingness to accommodate. I also started dating someone. His name was Marcus, a librarian I'd met at a bookstore downtown. We'd struck up a conversation about mystery novels and exchanged numbers. We'd been on 3 dates, nothing serious yet, but promising. He was kind, funny, asked questions, and actually listened to the answers. I hadn't told him about my family situation, but I knew I'd have to eventually. Late one Thursday night, my phone rang. Emily's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Francine. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying for hours. What's wrong? I need help. I didn't know who else to call. What happened? The bakery is failing. I'm $30,000 in debt on top of the $400,000 Mom and Dad gave me. I can't make rent. My staff quit because I couldn't pay them. I'm going to lose everything. I closed my eyes. Helen had been right. Where are Mom and Dad? I asked. They're broke. The motel ate through their savings. They moved into a cheaper place out in Gresham, but they can't help me financially. Hello, I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. Because I work hard and live below my means. That money is my safety net. I'm not going to throw it away on a failing business. Wow. You really are heartless. I can't believe we're related. I'm trying to help you the right way, but you don't want to hear it. Go to hell, Francine. She hung up. I sat in the dark, phone in my hand, feeling numb. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, a man in a suit stood there holding an envelope. Francine Porter. Yes, you've been served. He handed me the envelope and left. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a legal letter from an attorney representing my parents. They were threatening to sue me for elder financial abuse and breach of family duty. The letter claimed I had explicitly promised to house them permanently, that I had reneged on that promise, causing them emotional and financial harm. It demanded compensation for their motel costs, emotional distress, and relocation expenses. The total they were seeking was $50,000. I read it 3 times, unable to process what I was seeing. My own parents were trying to sue me, for not letting them live with me, for choosing myself. I called in sick to work and immediately contacted an attorney whose name Jordan had given me weeks earlier, just in case. Her name was Diane Winters, a family law specialist in her mid-50s with a reputation for being sharp and no-nonsense. I met her that afternoon in her downtown office. She read the letter carefully, then set it down and looked at me over her glasses. This is a scare tactic, she said. A particularly nasty one, but a scare tactic nonetheless. Can they actually sue me? They can file a lawsuit, sure. Anyone can file anything. But will they win? Absolutely not. There's no legal concept of breach of family duty in Oregon. You're an adult. They're adults. You have no legal obligation to house them. And elder financial abuse requires proof that you had control over their finances and exploited them. From what you've told me, the opposite is true. They made their own financial decisions without consulting you. Relief flooded through me. So this is just... what? An intimidation attempt. Exactly. They're hoping you'll panic and give them money to make it go away. My advice? Don't engage. I'll draft a formal response making it clear that any further harassment will result in a countersuit. That should shut this down. Will it damage my relationship with them further? Diana's expression softened. Honey, I've been doing this for 27 years. The relationship is already damaged. The question is whether you're going to let them continue to manipulate you or if you're going to protect yourself. I left her office with the strange sensation of being both validated and heartbroken. That evening, Jordan came over again. I showed her the letter. She swore colorfully. Your parents really went there. Apparently. How are you feeling? Sad, angry, relieved that it won't hold up in court. But mostly just sad. You're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to grieve the parents you wish you had. That night I cried for the first time since this all began. Not angry tears or scared tears, but grief tears. For the relationship I'd always wanted and never had. For the family that could have been but wasn't. Diane sent the formal response to my parents' attorney within 48 hours. It was polite but firm, outlining the legal weaknesses of their claim and warning that continued harassment would result in a countersuit for legal fees and emotional distress. I didn't hear anything back. No phone calls, no texts, no emails. The silence was eerie. I focused on building my new life. Marcus and I went on our 4th date, a hike at Silver Falls State Park. The autumn leaves were brilliant shades of orange and red. We talked about books and travel and childhood memories. I still hadn't told him about my family situation, but I could feel the conversation approaching. On the drive back, he said, "You seem lighter than when we first met, like something's changed." I set some boundaries recently, I said carefully. With my family. It was hard but necessary. Good for you. That takes guts. You think so? Absolutely. Family stuff is the hardest to navigate because there's so much guilt attached. But you can love people and still protect yourself from them. I looked at him with new appreciation. Maybe I'd tell him the full story someday soon. Work continued to go well. I led a successful project presentation and received praise from the director. My boss pulled me aside and said, "Whatever you've been doing differently lately, keep doing it. You're thriving." I was thriving. For the first time in my adult life, I was putting my energy into myself instead of managing everyone else's needs and emotions. 2 weeks after the legal letter, Aunt Helen called again. "I wanted to give you an update," she said. "I drove up to Portland again this weekend." "How are they?" "Your parents?" "Surviving, barely. They're in a run-down extended stay place in Gresham. Your mom got a job at a local library. Part-time, shelving books. It doesn't pay much, but it's something. Your dad has too proud to work retail or food service, but that's all that's available without connections. Has bitter. And Emily." Helen sighed. "Emily's bakery closed. Officially. She locked the doors last Friday. Even though I'd expected it, hearing it confirmed felt like a punch to the gut." "How is she handling it?" "Not well. She moved back in with your parents. 3 adults in a tiny room with 2 double beds. Your mom told me the tension is unbearable. Emily blames your parents for not giving her enough money. Your dad blames Emily for wasting what they did give her. Your mom just cries a lot. That's awful." "It is. But Francine here's the thing. Your mom called me yesterday. We had a long conversation. She's starting to see things differently. She admitted they put too much pressure on you over the years, that they took you for granted because you were capable and Emily seemed fragile. She said she's ashamed." "Did she say that to me? Or just to you?" "Just to me, so far. She's afraid to reach out to you. Afraid you won't forgive her." "I don't know if I can," I said honestly. "That's fair. But I think she's genuinely changing. She's in therapy now. Did you know that?" "No. How would I know?" "Well, she is. Started 2 weeks ago. It was my suggestion, and she actually followed through. That surprised me. My mother had always dismissed therapy as something for people who can't handle their problems. And there's something else," Helen said. "Something you should know before anyone else tells you." My stomach tightened. "What?" "Emily wants to apologize to you. She asked your mom for your address." "You've got to be kidding me. Your mom didn't give it to her, don't worry." "But Emily's serious. She told your mom that losing the bakery made her realize some hard truths about herself. I don't know if the apology will be genuine or if it's more manipulation, but I wanted you to be prepared." "Thank you for the warning." "Of course. And Francine? Whatever you decide to do, whether you forgive them or keep your distance or something in between, I support you. You don't owe them anything." After we hung up, I sat with the information. My mom was in therapy. Emily wanted to apologize. My dad was bitter. Everything was falling apart for them. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt sad. Saturday afternoon, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and froze. Emily stood in the hallway, looking nothing like the confident, polished woman I'd seen at the coffee shop. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail. She wore jeans and a plain sweater, no makeup. Her eyes were red-rimmed. I considered not opening the door, but curiosity won. "How did you find me?" I asked through the crack, chain still attached. Jordan told me. I ran into her at the grocery store and begged her. She made me promise I'd be respectful. I hesitated, then unhooked the chain and opened the door. Emily stepped inside and looked around the tiny studio. "This is where you live now?" "Yes. It's so small. It's enough." She stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, hands shoved in her pockets. "I came to apologize." "Okay. I've been a terrible sister. Actually, terrible doesn't even cover it. I've been entitled and selfish and cruel. I took you for granted my entire life and never once thought about how that affected you." I crossed my arms, waiting. The bakery failing was the worst thing and the best thing that ever happened to me, she continued. I lost everything. The business, the money, my pride. I'm living in a motel room with mom and dad, sleeping on a cot. I have $17 in my bank account. I've never felt so low. I'm sorry you're going through that, I said. And I meant it. But it made me see things clearly for the first time. I've spent my whole life chasing dreams without doing the work. I wanted success handed to me because it always had been. Mom and dad funded every idea I had, bailed me out of every failure, told me I was special and talented and deserving. And I believed them. I thought the world owed me something. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. You were right about everything. I never learned to work hard because I didn't have to. I never learned to fail because someone always caught me. And I never appreciated you because you made everything look so easy. She wiped her face with her sleeve. You worked 2 jobs in college and I never even thought about what that must have been like. You bought a house on your own and I just saw it as a convenient place for family dinners. You were always there, always reliable, and I took that as a given instead of a gift. I felt my own eyes water. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Emily said. I don't deserve that. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. What we all did. And I'm so sorry. We stood in silence for a long moment. What are you going to do now? I asked. I applied for a job at a coffee shop downtown. I start Monday. Barista. $8.50 an hour. It's humbling. But I need to start somewhere. I'm also enrolling in a community college business course in January. I need to learn how to actually run a business before I ever try again. That's smart. I'm also moving out of the motel. I found a room in a house share for $450 a month. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. Good for you. She looked at me with something like hope. Do you think? Could we maybe try to have a real relationship someday? Not right now. I know I have to earn that. But someday. I thought about it carefully. Maybe. If you keep doing the work, if you show me through actions, not words, that you've changed, then maybe. She nodded, fresh tears spilling over. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. After she left, I sat on my bed for a long time, processing what had just happened. Emily had apologized. Really apologized. Not to get something from me, but because she'd genuinely seen her behavior clearly for the first time. It didn't erase years of hurt. But it was a beginning. Life settled into a new rhythm over the following weeks. I kept going to therapy, kept working, kept dating Marcus. We'd been seeing each other for 2 months, and I'd finally told him about my family situation. He listened without judgment, asked thoughtful questions, and then said, "That must have taken incredible strength." I wasn't used to being seen that way. As strong rather than cold. As self-protective rather than selfish. Emily and I exchanged a few texts. Nothing deep, just small updates. She sent me a picture of her first paycheck from the coffee shop. I sent her encouragement. It felt strange but not bad. I heard nothing from my parents. Then, 5 weeks after Emily's apology, I came home from work to find a certified letter in my mailbox. My hands shook as I opened it, afraid it was another legal threat. It wasn't from an attorney. It was from my mother. She'd written it by hand, her familiar looping cursive filling 3 pages of cream-colored stationery. "Dear Francine," it began. "I've started this letter 17 times and thrown away 17 drafts because I don't know how to put into words what I need to say. But my therapist told me that imperfect honesty is better than perfect silence. So here's my imperfect attempt. You were right about everything. About how we treated you, about the unfairness, about the way we took you for granted. Your father and I failed you as parents. We saw your strength and mistook it for not needing support. We saw Emily's struggles and mistook them for needing more than we had to give. We created a dynamic where you were the giver and everyone else was the taker. And we never stopped to question whether that was fair or sustainable. I'm in therapy now. I started 8 weeks ago at your Aunt Helen's suggestion. My therapist has helped me see patterns I've been blind to my entire life. My own mother treated me the same way I treated you, and I swore I'd never do that to my daughters. But I did it anyway. I made the same mistakes because I didn't know how to break the cycle. I can't undo the past. I can't give you back the money you spent, or the time you sacrificed, or the emotional energy you poured into holding our family together while we took from you without gratitude. But I can tell you that I see it now. I see you. And I'm so sorry. Your father is struggling with all of this. He's too proud to admit he was wrong. Too hurt by his own failures to look clearly at how he contributed to yours. I don't know if he'll ever reach the place I'm trying to reach, but I can't wait for him. I need to do this work for myself and for you. I got a job at the library. It's small, just part-time. But it's the first job I've had in 32 years. I forgot what it felt like to earn my own money. To have a purpose outside of being a wife and mother. It's humbling and empowering at the same time. I'm not writing this to ask for anything. Not money, not housing, not even forgiveness. Though I hope for that someday. I'm writing because you deserve to know that your courage to set boundaries didn't just save you. It saved me too. It forced me to look at my life and realize I'd made myself dependent on others, on your father's decisions, on Emily's needs, on your willingness to carry us all. I'd lost myself. I'm finding myself again. It's hard and scary and I don't know what comes next. But I'm doing it. If you're willing, I'd like to see you. Just for coffee. No expectations. Just two women trying to figure out how to be mother and daughter in a healthier way. But if you're not ready, I understand. I'll wait. I love you, Francine. I always have, even when I didn't show it well. Mom, I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. It was everything I'd ever wanted to hear and never thought I would. I called Aunt Helen. Did you know she wrote me a letter? She told me she was going to. Have you read it? Yes. What are you thinking? I'm thinking maybe there's hope. Real hope. Not just wishful thinking. Your mom's really trying, Francine. I've seen the change in her these past weeks. She's not perfect, she's still figuring it out, but she's genuine. What about Dad? Helen sighed. Your dad is stuck. He's angry at the world. Angry at himself, angry at you for forcing him to see his failures. I don't know if he'll come around. But your relationship with your mom doesn't have to depend on your relationship with him. That feels weird. They're a package deal. They don't have to be. Your mom is realizing that too. She's learning to make her own choices. I thought about it for a long time after we hung up. 2 days later, I texted my mom. I'd like to have coffee. Saturday at 10? There's a place near my apartment. She responded immediately. I'll be there, thank you. Saturday morning, I arrived at the coffee shop early, nervous energy thrumming through me. I ordered a latte and sat by the window, watching people pass on the sidewalk. Mom arrived exactly at 10. She looked different. Older, yes, but also somehow younger, less burdened. She wore simple clothes, jeans, and a cardigan, her hair pulled back. She smiled tentatively when she saw me. We hugged awkwardly. She ordered tea and joined me at the table. Thank you for meeting me, she said. Thank you for the letter. Did it make sense? I rewrote it so many times. It made perfect sense. We talked for 2 hours. Really talked. Maybe for the first time ever. She told me about therapy, about the things she was learning about herself, about her childhood, and the ways her own parents had shaped her, without her realizing. She told me about the job at the library, how she loved the quiet of it, the order of shelving books, the small interactions with patrons. I told her about my promotion, about Marcus, about the peace I'd found in my tiny studio apartment. I told her about the therapy work I'd been doing, about learning to value myself beyond what I could do for others. She cried several times. So did I. I don't expect you to forgive me quickly, she said. Or maybe ever. But I hope we can build something new, something healthier. I'd like that, I said. But it has to be different. I can't go back to the way things were. I wouldn't want you to. The way things were was broken. Before we left, she hesitated. Your father doesn't know him here. He wouldn't approve. But I'm learning to make my own decisions, even when he disagrees. That's brave, I said. I learned it from you. We agreed to meet again in 2 weeks. Small steps, cautious hope. Over the next month, Mom and I met 3 more times. Each conversation went deeper. She told me she was considering separating from Dad. Not divorcing necessarily, but living separately so she could continue her growth without his resistance. He was stuck in bitterness and blame, and she couldn't keep waiting for him to change. Emily texted me occasionally. She'd been promoted to shift supervisor at the coffee shop and was excelling in her business class. She sent me her first essay about the lessons learned from business failure. It was thoughtful and self-aware. I told her I was proud of her. "That means more than you know," she replied. Then, 3 months after that first coffee with my mom, something unexpected happened. I got a call from an attorney, but not the one representing my parents. This was a different lawyer. A man named Gerald Thompson. "Miss Porter, I'm calling regarding your parents' legal matter. I've been retained to represent them in the withdrawal of their previous claim against you." Withdrawal? Yes. Your mother has decided to formally drop the lawsuit threat. She wanted to ensure there was a legal record of this withdrawal and an apology on behalf of both parties. Your father reluctantly agreed. "I'm sending the documents today. I wanted to give you a courtesy call first." After we hung up, I sat stunned. It was really over. The legal threat, the manipulation, the attempt to force me into compliance through fear. My mom had chosen me over that toxic pattern. She'd chosen truth over comfort. That evening she called. "Did the lawyer reach you?" "Yes. Thank you. I should have done it sooner. I'm sorry it took this long." What changed? I realized that holding on to that lawsuit, even if it went nowhere, was holding on to the old pattern. I had to let it go completely. Your father was angry, but I did it anyway. Are you okay? I'm better than okay, I'm free. Spring arrived, bringing with it a sense of renewal I hadn't felt in years. My studio apartment was filled with plants now, small green things that thrived in the window light. Marcus and I had been dating for 5 months, taking things slow but steady. Had met Jordan, who approved wholeheartedly. I'd been at my new position for 3 months and was already being considered for another promotion. My boss told me I'd become invaluable to the team. Mom and I met every other week for coffee or lunch. Our conversations had evolved from careful and apologetic to genuine and warm. She'd gotten more hours at the library and had started taking a watercolor painting class. She showed me her work, shy but proud. It was good. She had talent she'd buried for decades. Emily and I texted regularly now. She'd saved enough money to move into a better apartment share and was making real progress in her community college courses. She'd even started baking again, but this time for fun, bringing treats to her coworkers instead of trying to monetize every hobby. I heard nothing from my father. Mom said he was working part-time at a hardware store and spending most of his free time alone. Head refused to join her in therapy or in any attempt at reconciliation with me. She'd stopped trying to force it. I'm sad about it. She told me over lunch one Saturday. But I can't make him change. That's his journey. Not mine. Then, in late May, something shifted. I came home from work on a Tuesday evening to find my father sitting on the bench outside my apartment building. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, more worn. He stood when he saw me, hands shoved in his pockets. "Francine," he said. I stopped several feet away, my heart pounding. "What are you doing here?" "I came to talk. If you'll let me." I considered sending him away, but curiosity and a tiny flicker of hope made me nod toward the building. "We can sit in the lobby." We took chairs in a corner of the small lobby area, far from the mailboxes where other residents passed through. Dad cleared his throat. "Your mother said I should come, said it was time I stopped being stubborn and started being honest." "Okay, this is hard for me. I'm not good at this kind of thing." "I know." He looked at his hands. "I've been angry for a long time. Angry at the world for not being what I thought it would be. Angry at myself for not being more successful. Angry at you for showing me my failures." I stayed quiet. When we sold the house to help Emily, I thought we were doing the right thing. Family supports family, that's what I believed. And when you wouldn't take us in, it felt like betrayal. Like you were rejecting everything Wed taught you about loyalty. You never taught me loyalty, I said quietly. You taught me obligation. There's a difference. He winced but didn't argue. You're right. I'm starting to see that now. Your mother's been in therapy, and she's been sharing what she's learning with me. Even though I don't always want to hear it. She said I used you, that I expected you to be strong and responsible so I didn't have to be. Did you? Yes, he said, the word coming out rough and reluctant. I did. And am sorry. The apology hung in the air between us. Why now? I asked. What changed? Helen came to see me last week. My sister. She told me about how I treated her 30 years ago. Things I'd forgotten or chosen not to remember. She said I was doing the same thing to you and that if I didn't wake up, I'd lose you completely. And she's right. I've already lost so much. My house, my savings, my pride. I don't want to lose my daughter too. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back. I can't promise I'll be good at this, he continued. I'm old and set in my ways and I don't know how to undo 50+ years of thinking a certain way. But I want to try. If you'll give me a chance. I looked at this man, my father, flawed and stubborn and finally honest. I need to see change, I said. Real change. Not just words. I need you to respect my boundaries and treat me like a person, not a resource. I can do that. I'll try anyway. And I need you to understand that rebuilding trust takes time. You hurt me, Dad. For years. That doesn't heal overnight. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. Mom said you're working at a hardware store, I said. Yeah, it's humbling, working retail at my age. But the people are decent, and the work keeps me busy. It's honest. That's good. I'm also starting therapy. Your mother insisted. I have my first appointment next week. That surprised me. Really. I don't know what to expect. But I figured if it helped her this much, maybe it could help me too. We talked for another 30 minutes. Not solving everything, not erasing the past, but starting something new. Something tentative and fragile but real. When he left, he paused at the door. Thank you for listening. I know I didn't deserve it. Everyone deserves a chance to change, I said. Whether they take it is up to them. After he left, I went up to my apartment and called Mom. He came to see me. I said, I know. How did it go? Better than I expected. Did you really make him start therapy? She laughed. I told him it was therapy or I was moving into my own place permanently. He chose therapy. Good for you. Good for all of us, she said. 2 weeks later, my lease on the corporate rental ended. The family from California was moving again, this time to Texas for another job opportunity. I had a decision to make. Renew the studio lease and find new tenants. Or move back into my house. I chose to move back, but this time it was different. The house was mine, truly mine, not a gathering place for family obligations but a home I'd created on my terms. I'd learned to live small, to need less, to be comfortable alone. Moving back into the bigger space didn't change that inner shift. I invited Mom, Emily, and Dad over for dinner one Saturday in June. Just the 4 of us. No celebration, no big occasion, just dinner. Mom brought a salad. Emily brought bread shed, baked herself, rustic and imperfect and delicious. Dad brought flowers, an awkward gesture that made my throat tight. We ate in my kitchen, the evening light streaming through the windows. Conversation was still sometimes stilted, still required effort, but it was honest. Emily talked about her business classes. Mom talked about a book club she'd joined at the library. Dad mostly listened, but he asked me questions about work and genuinely seemed interested in the answers. After dinner, Emily helped me wash dishes while Mom and Dad sat in the living room. This feels weird, Emily said, up to her elbows in soapy water. Good weird or bad weird? Good weird, like we're actually a family instead of people playing roles. Yeah, I agreed. That's exactly what it feels like. When everyone left, I stood in my empty kitchen, feeling something I hadn't felt in years when it came to my family. Hope. Not naive hope that everything would be perfect, but realistic hope that we were all finally doing the work to be better. Summer unfolded gently. I settled back into my house, making it feel like mine in new ways. I painted the guest bedroom a soft sage green. I turned the third bedroom into a home office. I planted tomatoes and herbs in the backyard. Marcus helped me build a small patio area where we could have coffee on weekend mornings. Mom and I continued our regular meetups, now expanding to include walks at the park or trips to bookstores. Shed fully committed to therapy and was making remarkable progress. She told me stories from her childhood I'd never heard, patterns she was finally understanding and breaking. Emily thrived in her business classes and at her coffee shop job. She'd been promoted to assistant manager and was being mentored by the owner, learning the practical side of running a business. She talked about maybe opening another bakery someday, but this time with a solid business plan, investors, and realistic expectations. She was in no rush. She was learning patience. Dad and I met for lunch once a month. Progress was slower with him, but it was there. Head stuck with therapy, much to everyone's surprise, and was gradually becoming more self-aware. He apologized more freely now, admitted when he was wrong, asked questions instead of making pronouncements. He'd never be easy, but he was trying. In August, Aunt Helen visited Portland. We had a family dinner at my house, all 5 of us. Helen looked around the table with satisfaction. "Look at you all," she said. "Actually talking to each other like real people." Emily laughed. "It's still weird sometimes." "Weird is better than toxic," Helen said, raising her glass of iced tea. "To weird and healthy." We all raised our glasses. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside on the patio. "I've been thinking about something," she said. "And I wanted to run it by you before I do anything." "Okay, your father and I are separating, officially. Not divorcing, at least not yet, but living separately. I found a small apartment near the library. Hes going to stay in the motel. How do you feel about that?" "Relieved. Scared. But mostly relieved. I love your father, but we enabled each other's worst patterns for too long. We both need space to keep growing." "I'm proud of you, Mom." She hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you too. You saved us all by saving yourself first." "I know that now." In September, Marcus and I took a weekend trip to the coast. We walked on the beach, ate fresh seafood, talked about the future in vague, hopeful terms. He told me he loved me for the first time while we watched the sunset over the ocean. I said it back, and I meant it. Emily sent me a text that weekend. A picture of her transcript from community college. She'd gotten all A's. I called her immediately, whooping with pride. "I never thought I was smart enough for school," she said. "But it turns out I just needed to actually try." "You were always smart, Em. You just needed to believe it." In October, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. It was small, just me, Marcus, Mom, Emily, Dad, and Aunt Helen. Dad was quiet but present. Mom was relaxed and happy. Emily made 3 pies, each one better than the last. Marcus fit in seamlessly, charming everyone with stories and genuine interest in their lives. After everyone left and Marcus had gone home, I stood in my kitchen, looking at the dishes piled in the sink, the leftover containers stacked in the fridge, the warmth still lingering in the house. For the first time in my life, I'd hosted a holiday that didn't leave me exhausted and resentful. I'd hosted it because I wanted to, not because it was expected, and everyone had contributed, helped, showed up as real people instead of roles. I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The painful decision to move out, to set boundaries, to say no. The legal threats and family confrontations, the slow, difficult process of everyone learning new patterns, including me. I'd learned that loving your family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left. Real love requires honesty, boundaries, and the courage to say no. I spent years being the dependable one, the one who never asked for anything, and it almost destroyed me. But when I finally chose myself, I didn't lose my family. I gave them the chance to see me as a person, not a resource. Some of them rose to that challenge. Mom did. Emily did. Dad was trying. That was more than I'd dared hope for a year ago. I learned that my worth isn't measured by how much I give, but by how much I respect myself. I'm not the backup plan anymore. I'm not the invisible daughter. I'm a woman who knows her value, who sets boundaries, who expects reciprocity in relationships. I'm the author of my own life. And that's the greatest gift I've ever given myself, the gift of choosing me. In December, I got another promotion at work. I also said yes when Marcus asked if I wanted to move in together. Not immediately, but soon. We were building something real and good. Emily's business professor asked her to be a teaching assistant for the spring semester. She said yes, excited to help other students avoid the mistakes Shed made. Mom signed a lease on her own apartment and moved in just before Christmas. She invited me over for tea in her new space, just 400 square feet, much like my studio had been. Shed decorated it with plants and books, and her watercolor paintings. It's perfect, I told her. It's mine, she said, eyes shining. For the first time in my life, I have a space that's entirely mine. Dad came to Christmas dinner at my house. He was awkward and uncomfortable with all the change. But he showed up. He brought a gift. A framed photo of me at my college graduation that I'd never seen before. I kept this in my wallet, he said gruffly. Thought you might want it. In the photo, I was smiling, holding my diploma, looking proud and hopeful. I'd forgotten that girl, the one who believed hard work would be rewarded, that family would see her value. In some ways, Shed been right. It just took longer than Shed thought. Thank you, I said, my voice thick. As the year came to a close, I reflected on everything that had changed. A year ago, I was trapped in a pattern of giving without receiving, of being strong without support, of loving without boundaries. Now I had all of those things. Not perfectly, not without effort, but truly. I'd learned that transformation is possible, even in the most entrenched family dynamics. But it requires courage. It requires someone to break the pattern, to say this far and no further, to choose themselves even when it feels selfish. It's not selfish. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's the foundation of all healthy relationships. And I'd learned that the people who truly love you will rise to meet you at your boundary. They might stumble at first, they might resist, but if the love is real, they'll try. Mom tried. Emily tried. Even Dad, stubborn and proud, was trying. That was enough. On New Year's Eve, Marcus and I sat on my patio, bundled in blankets, watching fireworks light up the distant sky. What are you hoping for this year? He asked. More of this, I said. More peace, more honesty, more joy. What about you? Same. And maybe we take that trip to Ireland we've been talking about. I'd like that. The fireworks burst overhead, brilliant and brief, and I felt something I hadn't felt in longer than I could remember. Contentment. Not the contentment of perfection, but the contentment of authenticity, of living aligned with my values, of relationships built on mutual respect, of a future I was actively creating instead of passively accepting. I'd chosen myself, and in doing so, I'd given everyone else the chance to choose better versions of themselves too. That's the power of boundaries. That's the power of self-respect. That's the power of saying, I matter too. And I do matter. We all do. It just took me 32 years to truly believe it, but I believe it now. And that changes everything. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt taken for granted by your family or loved ones? Have you struggled with setting boundaries because you were afraid of being seen as selfish? How did you handle it, or how are you handling it now? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's going through something similar. And if this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Sharing this video might help someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose themselves, that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you something valuable, whether that's comfort, clarity, or just the reminder that you're not alone in your struggles. Take care of yourselves. You're worth it.